Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I invite you to stand to receive His Excellency Andrew Holmes. Your Excellency Andrew Holness, Prime Minister of Jamaica, members of the official delegation, Madam Ambassador Audrey Marks, Permanent Representative of Jamaica and Ambassador to the United States, distinguished permanent and alternate representatives, Mr. Luis Almagro, Secretary General, Mr. Nestor Mendez, Assistant Secretary General, distinguished permanent observers, ladies and gentlemen. As permanent representative of Ecuador and chair of the Permanent Council of the Organization of American States, it is my honor to warmly welcome to this House of the Americas the Prime Minister of Jamaica, His Excellency Andrew Holness. Honorable Prime Minister, the Permanent Council of the Organization of American States extends to you a fraternal greeting in solidarity as fellow nations of this hemisphere. We welcome you with respect and appreciation to this organization, wherein our governments pursue the shared aim of strengthening democracy, promoting and protecting human rights, advancing integral development and multidimensional security. In keeping with the order of business of this protocolary meeting, I am pleased to offer the floor to the Secretary General of the Organization of American States, Luis Almagro Lemes. Mr. Secretary General, you have the floor.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness and esteemed members of the delegation, Chair of the Permanent Council, Assistant Secretary General Nestor Mendez, members of the Permanent Council, it is a distinct honor and a privilege for me to welcome the Prime Minister of Jamaica and the other members of his delegation on this, his first visit in this capacity. Thank you for taking time from your busy schedule to be with us today here in your house, the House of the Americas. Prime Minister Holness is a symbol of change. He campaigned on a platform that promised change, and ever since he was elected, he has shown his commitment to effect change, particularly in the area of governance. His energy and commitment to accelerating economic growth in Jamaica are yielding positive results, as shown by Jamaica's recent economic performance figures. We are witnessing a revisiting of the ideal of government for the people and by the people, which promises to lay firm foundations for more sustainable, lasting, and meaningful development in the small nations, such as Jamaica and the other nations of the Caribbean. Prime Minister, your story is one of perseverance of a true leader, both as chair of the CARICOM, whose members plays an active role in the affairs of the OES, as well as in the world arena. You're a strong advocate for a more balanced participation of all countries in the multilateral system governance. You did so at the G7 meeting in Canada last June, and I am sure you will do so too at the G20 in Argentina in a few days, on behalf of the Caribbean region, especially with regard to the impact of climate change and the need for greater resiliency. This is consistent with the democratic ideals of the OES, especially the Inter-American Democratic Charter, in which democracy is not solely about the regularity of free, clean, and fair elections, but also the exercise of democratic governance. Though classified as a small state by most international standards, Jamaica has often punched above its weight with a proactive foreign policy, and no place is this more pronounced than at the OES. Your representatives have been constant and eloquent voice in the deliberations at the councils of the organizations, its commissions, and agencies. Nationals of Jamaica have served in the Inter-American Human Rights System, including the current Inter-American Human Rights Commission President and the Inter-American Juridical Committee. Over the years, Jamaica has also hosted a number of Inter-American ministerial meetings and other high-level events. At the General Assembly in Cancun, your Minister of Foreign Affairs stated that to promote ideas and work of the organization is a challenging one and requires our collective and sustained commitment to the principles of the OAS and the Inter-American Democratic Charter, to which we all have subscribed. I wish to underscore Jamaica's commitment thereto. More recently, at the General Assembly here in Washington, she reiterated Jamaica's concerns about the adherence to democratic principles and brought attention to critical humanitarian needs. This commitment to freedom and solidarity, for example, with Venezuela, has deep historical roots. As far as 1815, Jamaica gave asylum to the liberator Simón Bolívar. Translating words into deeds, your country has consistently supported numerous requests for meetings of the Permanent Council to address democracy and human rights situations. Your personal defense of democracy has also been steadfast. You said earlier this year in unequivocal terms that Jamaica supports human rights, Jamaica supports peace in this region, and Jamaica wants to see the people of Venezuela being able to enjoy their democracy. We at the OAS look on with great interest and with true promise of doing so all what we can to assist your government, Prime Minister. For success in Jamaica will redound to the benefit of the rest of the Caribbean and can provide a model for all the members of the Organization of American States. Welcome again to the House of America, Prime Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary General. Honorable Prime Minister of Jamaica, Your Excellency Andrew Holness, on behalf of the OAS Permanent Council, I wish to extend to you and to the members of your distinguished delegation the warmest of welcomes to this House of the Americas, the main forum for political dialogue in our hemisphere. Your independence slogan, One Love, One Family, and your country's motto, Out of Many, One People, capture the friendly, kind, and compassionate character for which the Jamaican people are well known. The Honorable Prime Minister Andrew Michael Holness holds a master's degree of Science and Development Studies and a bachelor's degree of Science and Management Studies from the University of the West Indies, the Mona campus. Prime Minister Holness was elected Member of Parliament in representation of the constituency of the West Central St. Andrew in 1997. He later served as head of government from October 2011 through January 2012 and is currently serving his fourth consecutive term as Prime Minister. Prior to assuming the office of head of government, Prime Minister Holness was assigned to several posts in Jamaica's government. He has focused particularly on key areas such as social welfare, community development, housing, and education. The Prime Minister honors us with his presence today as the representative of a country that enjoys a stable democracy with more than 74 years of elections and uninterrupted changes in administration, a country that ranks 6th in the world in press freedom and 47th out of the 113 countries evaluated under the Rule of Law Index, a nation at the forefront of sports and creative arts that lays claim to one of the best positioned country brands in the world. We all share the pride of the Jamaican people when it comes to the achievements of Usain Bolt in his world record 9.58 seconds time in the 100-meter dash, which makes him the fastest man in history. And let us be frank, who has not enjoyed, danced to the tune of Bob Marley? How can we refer to Jamaica without recalling the support and safe haven it offered to the liberator of 5 of the nations represented here today in this Hall of the Americas? During his exile in your country, imbued by your nation's rich culture, Simón Bolívar penned his celebrated letter from Jamaica, in which he reflected upon the historic victories in the struggle for liberty in the Americas, as well as he advocated for creating a political organization for this hemisphere. The letter from Jamaica has served as a source of inspiration over the past 2 centuries for the peoples of the Americas, and as an essential beacon for the integration of Latin America and the Caribbean. We welcome the support that you personally profess to the role of the Organization of American States in promoting and defending development and democracy in this hemisphere. You have championed strengthening cooperation between the countries of the Caribbean and Latin America. Indeed, you are a fervent believer that the path to prosperity must be harnessed through expanded trade and investment and deeper regional cooperation. We acknowledge your country's commitment to fulfilling the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda, despite its vulnerability to external economic and environmental shocks, as reported by the international financial institutions. We commend the decisive actions that your country has taken to alleviate that burden in an adverse environment of dwindling investment, trade, and financing. We are likewise aware that Jamaica is experiencing challenges like those of other highly indebted middle-income countries in the Caribbean, and as such, the obstacles that you encounter when it comes to accessing capital. In this regard, we encourage implementing proposals like the Debt for Climate Adaptation Swap Initiative, which calls for mobilizing resources from the Green Climate Fund to reduce debt. You have advocated, even at the G7 summit level, that classifying many of the region's countries as upper middle income solely based on this rather confusing macro indicator of the gross domestic product severely impairs those countries' ability to raise funds primarily for the reconstruction and recovery phases following the onslaught of natural disasters. We submit that the forces of inclusive and sustainable growth have the capacity to transform the lives of millions and enable them to move from poverty to prosperity. To this end, your government's effort to forge a society of innovation in the creative arts, as well as in science and technology, is laudable, as is your commitment to modernize the educational system. Rest assured that Jamaica can count on the support and cooperation of the OAS in a wide range of issues. And in fact, the OAS has a robust agenda in the area of multidimensional security and integral development that may complement your efforts on combating climate change and managing natural disasters. Your country, Honorable Prime Minister, serves as a benchmark for Latin America and the Caribbean. This was evidenced during the CARICOM summit held last June in Montego Bay. Mr. Prime Minister, I'm pleased to recognize the auspicious state of relations between my country, Ecuador, and Jamaica, as we both advocate the defense of the rule of law, the strengthening of democracy, and the realization of economic development. Examples of our excellent bilateral ties, albeit limited, revolve around the promotion of multi-destination tourism and the organization of trade missions. We have also agreed on the benefit of entering into political consultations and considering purchases of certain items, including oil. Once again, Honorable Prime Minister, we thank you for honoring us with your visit at the OAS. It is now my great honor to offer the floor to the Honorable Prime Minister of Jamaica, His Excellency Andrew Holness.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Carlos Evita, Permanent Representative of Ecuador to the OAS. My friend, Secretary General, His Excellency Luis Almagro, Assistant Secretary General, my other good friend, Ambassador Nestor Menendez, distinguished permanent representatives and permanent observers, specially invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is my distinct honor to be here in this impressive hall at the home of the Organization of American States to address the 34 member states represented here. I bring greetings from sunny Jamaica. It is wintertime here in Washington, And as we approach the holiday seasons, we would be delighted to welcome those of you who are considering a vacation to celebrate the season in Jamaica with us. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, 70 years ago, the leaders of our hemisphere came together to forge a common purpose for the attainment of peace, prosperity, and development for our peoples. This was no mere coincidence. The birth of the OAS came with much promise and acclaim to realize the dream of our forefathers. 70 years later, I'm sure that we can all agree that much has been accomplished, and yet there is still much more to do. Today, the world in which we live is substantially different. It is characterized by complex and dynamic challenges that require innovative solutions, which I believe are realistically attainable and which an inclusive and well-managed OAS can deliver. There is no doubt that the organization remains as relevant today as it was at the outset. Given its role as a premier hemispheric institution, it is needed now more than ever. The developments of concern in our region in respect of crime, gender-based violence, migration, and the increasing numbers of refugees are all problems that need our collaborative efforts to resolve. The OAS provides a forum for the collaboration through concerted dialogue. I believe that at this juncture, history beckons, and our response must be decisive, clear, and robust. We must act in unison as a hemisphere to address the present needs of those whom we are called to serve with fairness and respect for the rule of law as enshrined in the Charter of the OAS and other legal instruments which guide this noble institution, to which all 35 countries have committed. Over the years, our foreign policy has been very consistent, and certainly the government which I lead upholds multilateralism as the core principle by which we should settle the differences which will undoubtedly arise between and among member states from time to time. We must engage more and confront less, remaining faithful to the OAS Charter to promote peace, strengthen solidarity, defend sovereignty and independence throughout this hemisphere. This should not be the mantra of a few, but all of us, irrespective of size, geography, economy, or any other delineation which may be crafted to divide us. As we grapple with the complex challenges of our time, the OAS cannot ignore or lose sight of the challenges posed by underdevelopment and extreme poverty in our hemisphere. For small developing countries like Jamaica, achieving sustained economic growth has become the backbone of our economic policy and our development agenda. That is the gateway to prosperity for our citizens. The possibilities for us to attain this lie in our ability to overcome the myriad challenges ranging from socioeconomic, environmental, trade-related, and financial pitfalls which we continue to encounter at every turn. A central tenet of my administration's focus is to achieve 5% growth in 4 years. We say in Jamaica 5 in 4. Well, really it's now 5 in 2. We believe that there can be no real peace, no real sustainable prosperity without economic growth. To achieve our 5 in 4 target, we must overcome these challenges which affect small island open economies like ours. But we also now have to contemplate the compounding factor and vagaries of climate change, which not only threatens the pace of our economic development, but our very existence in many instances. Notwithstanding the myriad challenges, we have placed the people of Jamaica at the forefront of our agenda of development. And we have aligned our Vision 2030 development plan with Agenda 2030 and its sustainable development goals to ensure that no one is left behind. In a globalized and interdependent world, we look forward to the guidance and assistance of our traditional as well as our new partners and alliances, including members of the OAS, as we pursue those economic growth objectives. However, as I indicated to the leaders at the 73rd session of the United Nations General Assembly, Jamaica will not wait on the world to save us. Indeed, we cannot. And we also recognize that the world will not and cannot wait for us either. We must take our destiny, our economic independence, our peace and our prosperity ultimately into our own hands. We must be responsible for ourselves and responsible in how we use our resources and care for our environment. That is the only way to have true resilience and true economic independence. On the occasion of this visit to Washington, I'm pleased to have had the opportunity to share with our major international development partners, the IMF, the IDB, and the World Bank, some thoughts on how we might examine some creative approaches to funding for building resilience in Caribbean countries who are so often impacted by climate change. I'm hopeful that those thoughts can be translated into practical proposals in short order. As we work our way towards securing our future, I am mindful also of the dangers posed by corruption and its potential to undermine our development efforts. We salute the role of the OAS in the Summit of the Americas process through the promotion of meaningful dialogue on important issues affecting the region. This year's theme, Democratic Governance Against Corruption, was indeed most fitting, especially against the backdrop of the magnitude of this scourge that confronts our countries, posing a serious threat to the rule of law and social order. In 2017, Jamaica attained its highest ever ranking and score over the past decade in the Corruption Perception Index of Transparency International, making our country on par with the Americas in that regard. Ladies and gentlemen, Among the underlying restrictions which undermine our subregion's competitiveness and growth is the high cost associated with energy. I believe that if Jamaica is to achieve its full potential, we must diversify our energy sources with a view to achieving complete energy security. In this regard, Jamaica has taken a deliberate approach to diversifying our energy sources, ensuring that renewables, particularly wind and solar, become a greater part of our energy mix. And I am pleased to announce that we have been making significant progress in this regard. We have set ourselves an ambitious target of ensuring that 50% of our electricity needs can be delivered by renewables, particularly solar and wind. As a demonstration of our commitment to developing renewable sources of energy and addressing the high cost of energy, Jamaica, with the support of the OAS Secretariat, will host the 4th ministerial meeting of the Energy and Climate Partnership of the Americas next October 2019. That major event will provide ample opportunity to exchange and gather pertinent information from leaders in the industry from the hemisphere. Our aim will be to capitalize on this opportunity as the country moves towards attaining 50% renewables in our energy mix by the year 2030. The OAS is one of our development partners for achieving this objective. Together, we must continue efforts aimed at promoting regional energy cooperation through different strategies, identifying energy initiatives, and exchanging experiences within the countries of the Americas in support of the collective development objective of energy security. Another issue which is creating serious challenges to development is the illicit trade in small arms and light weapons, which is inextricably linked to the worrisome phenomenon of organized crime and corruption across the region. We have made tremendous strides as a nation in our own fight against illegal weapons, but I take this opportunity to urge the OAS to continue to strengthen its support for member states to combat this illicit trade, which threatens to damage and destroy the very fabric of our societies. It is rapidly leading to the destruction of many of the gains made by countries in the Americas. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we must begin as a region to take bold steps necessary to change the past and open the doors to a brighter future for the nearly 1 billion people who look to us for guidance and direction. The challenge over the next 70 years will be to continue beyond the realization of more rights for more people. As the OAS, its current tagline suggests. It is also opportune for us to take stock of the successes and failures of the organization, to determine not only its focus, but also the adequacy of its current structure, staffing, budgetary allocations, and perhaps its legislative framework. In all of this, the organization must remain people-centered and true to the pillars of its foundation. Interestingly, the global community will be commemorating on the 10th of December the 70th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Human rights, as you are aware, is a core pillar of this organization and one which Jamaica strongly supports, having played a crucial role in its development. I believe that a hemispheric culture anchored in human rights will undoubtedly lead to a stronger Americas, providing a solid platform for economic growth, security, and stability for all throughout the hemisphere, a place where persons can, in the words of the Jamaican National Pledge, stand up for justice, brotherhood, and peace, work diligently and creatively, thinking generously and honestly. I conclude as I began by extending sincere best wishes to the OAS on the occasion of the 70th anniversary of its establishment. I do so not only on behalf of Jamaica, but the entire CARICOM region, of which I'm the current chairman. We pledge to work to make the OAS an even better institution, which will meet the needs of the peoples of our respective countries as it forges a path towards problem solving. All our people are deserving of a better quality of life. We also owe it to our children and our children's children to bequeath to them a safe, secure, and prosperous hemisphere. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Prime Minister of Jamaica, Your Excellency Andrew Holness, for your most interesting and illustrated statement. Distinguished representatives, this Protocolary meeting is hereby adjourned. I wish to thank you all for your attendance and request that you remain seated while the Honorable Prime Minister of Jamaica comes by and greets you. Thank you.